Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Chris Lee. Commodore fans, on your feet. It's time to anchor down.
Hello and welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast presented by Dr. Jody Jones, DDS. We are part of the 440 Sports Network. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, Joey Dwyer. We will talk Vanderbilt basketball as the Commodores are now close to starting conference play. Joey appears on the guest line. That's presented by Michael Kendrick of the Kendrick Group. Michael is a local carpenter and a lifelong Vandy fan. He makes bookshelves, cabinets, picture frames, furniture, and made-to-order items, including a display case for my prized Dale Murphy jersey. I've seen Michael's work. He's a true craftsman. If you're in the market for custom woodwork, give Michael a call, 615-830-9458. Now on to our interview with Joey Dwyer. Joey Dwyer joins us today. He is our basketball writer at vandysports.com. We're doing this on a Thursday. Vanderbilt has a game against Southeastern Louisiana that I'll be there to cover. Joey is still in Atlanta for break, and then I've got the South Carolina game coming up after that. Goodness, conference play is here. It actually started for several other SEC teams last night, that being again Wednesday night. Joey, appreciate you joining us today to talk some hoops.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great time of year with conference play starting. Got to see a few SEC games last night, and Vanderbilt will get that started shortly. Seems like Stackhouse thinks that's the most important time of the year, so I guess we should as well. Looking forward to the next few weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, the SEC got off to an interesting start last night. If people didn't catch it, Missouri pretty much blew out Kentucky and Columbia. That program is getting turned around in a hurry. Florida went to Auburn, which has got some issues, and hung in that game till the final minute. Auburn pulled that one out. Auburn, of course, the favored team there. Georgia now 10-3 after beating Rider in a game that was pretty meaningless unless Georgia had lost it. You had Tennessee going to Ole Miss, trailing in the second half, winning that one. And you had Alabama, which I think is the best team in the conference, going to Mississippi State and winning. And, oh, yes, LSU, which has got one loss against a pretty easy schedule, upset a pretty banged-up Arkansas team last night in Baton Rouge. So it's been fun to watch the conference. I found there to be some very interesting games in the start of league play.
Yeah, last night I was able to cue in on a few games. Obviously just so much going on, so it was hard to really take everything in, but Alabama beating Mississippi State was a nice win for them. Kind of supports your thought that they're the best team in the league. That backcourt is just unbelievable with Brandon Miller, Javon Quinterly, Jaden Bradley, Mark Sears. A lot of talent in that backcourt, probably the best in the league. Kentucky obviously sputtering a little bit. Hard to think they won't get it together at some point, but they just can't seem to figure out their rotations. They can't figure out how to space the floor the way they want to. And a work in progress there, but I think that win says a lot about Mizzou, kind of just how they fed off the crowd, the momentum they had, and that program has been turned quickly when they fired Martin.
Cuonzo Martin. Yeah,
Cuonzo Martin a few months ago. I don't think I ever would have thought they'd be 12-1 with a win over Kentucky and a win over Illinois. So, heck of a job by Dennis Gates there to turn that thing in a hurry.
Well, and especially after just getting obliterated by Kansas a few weeks ago. They get a buzzer beater to beat UCF and then wins over top 25 teams, Illinois and Kentucky, in very decisive fashion. That is a program headed in a much better direction. And now we get to Vanderbilt, a team that has not headed in the direction that we thought it was capable of. I think I gave which knowing this was optimistic, an 11-2 preseason forecast, thinking conference play was going to be tough to win maybe more than 6 games. The league, I think there's some maybe easier wins in there than I thought 2 months ago. I say easier, not easy. In fact, Vanderbilt starts with the team that will be the worst team in the league, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the computers in South Carolina. But Vanderbilt really needed to get some good wins in the non-conference portion, and it just didn't, Joey. The Pitt win is looking a little better. Pitt, I'm going to double-check this, but at one point, Vanderbilt was the only loss in a 9-game stretch for Pitt. Yeah, that's still true. In fact, Pitt has not played since I looked that up. It will play North Carolina on Friday night in Pitt. Pitt has actually won its first 2 ACC games. Both those were away from home against NC State and Syracuse. But other than that, I mean, the overtime win at Temple was entertaining, but not much else meat on the bone in terms of what the Commodores accomplished in the non-conference portion, and a couple of losses in there that I think will prove, well, I don't think this team is going to get anywhere near postseason play. But if you wanted to play that game of resume, a couple of losses in there that I think are going to be fairly crippling, particularly Grambling and maybe Southern Miss. That one looking a little better. Southern Miss now 11-2, but hasn't beaten much of anybody. Anyway, that is a long preamble to hand it off to you, but I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, just kind of a disastrous non-conference slate for Vandy. They really leave non-conference play with nothing of substance on their resume, in the computers at least. Pitt's a nice win. Of course, on my sick day that happened, but Temple was a decent win. But then you look at all their other opportunities, all the ones that would have looked good in the computer, Memphis, St. Mary's, NC State, VCU. None of those games ended up being wins for Vanderbilt. And they have really dug themselves in a hole as they head into SEC play, where they'll play tougher teams. I think they play 5 or 6 ranked games in the month of January, and it's certainly not getting easier from there either. You have to go to Kentucky in March and have to play a few more ranked teams in February. So it's not going to get easier for Vanderbilt, and we knew that to build their resume, it had to come mostly through non-conference play. They had to get off to a great start, and they just haven't done that. And they don't really have any signs of progress either. It just looks like a team that doesn't really know who they are. They kind of know what they want to be. They want to be a team that shoots the 3 ball a lot. But on other nights, it seems like they want to be a team that pounds the post. They just don't really seem to have an offensive identity. Stack said after Alabama A&M that they want to be a team that shoots the 3 a lot. They shot 34 threes in that game. And as a team, they're shooting 32% from 3 on the year. Not really a recipe for success. And they only have 2 guys who play significant minutes night in, night out that shoot over 30% from 3. That's Trey Thomas and Miles Studi. Studi obviously shooting a way higher clip and one of the best clips in the country. But other than him, Vanderbilt really hasn't had shooters. Liam Robbins is shooting 19% from 3. Jordan Wright not shooting at a super high clip either. Only 25%. Lawrence shooting at 27%. And just doesn't really seem like they know who they are offensively, although the offense does look a little bit more fluid. They got their feet in the paint a little bit and started kicking it out for better looks against Alabama A&M, but just seems like kind of a directionless offense, even though they do have a few guys who can create and a few guys who have shown positive signs. Just as a whole, don't really know what they are yet as they head into conference play, and I think that's an issue. Defensively, they wanted to build their identity there, and right now they're outside the top 100 in KenPom. Defensive efficiency, they're not forcing many turnovers, which they would have liked. And there, it just doesn't seem like they built their identity either, which is where they wanted to build it in the preseason. So the resume doesn't look good, and Vanderbilt doesn't have any positive signs in terms of who they want to be. They have some individual guys who have broken out. Liam Robbins is having his best season as a Vanderbilt Commodore. Lawrence is having a nice year, probably better than I expected at this point of the year, but also you have guys like Ezra Manjon, who really hasn't shown much as a scorer, although he has done some nice things otherwise. Jordan Wright's been banged up a little bit, and Colin Smith has shown some flashes, but hasn't really done all that much, as well as the freshman class, who really isn't producing as much as maybe we thought they would. So Vanderbilt has some positive signs that they can take into the new year, but a lot of New Year's resolutions need to be done for this team to have really any chance of postseason play.
Yeah, before we get into identity, because I've got some definite opinions on that. Looking at the schedule, KenPom rates it 117th, I think, in the country. I mean, we said there were some interesting games in here, but the teams that Vanderbilt has played, that Joe Lunardi has in the NCAA tournament, he did this on the 27th. We are doing this again on the 29th. He's got Memphis in, I think, as a 6 seed. That is correct. He's got North Carolina State on the first 4 out, and St. Mary's is, I think, a 9. I don't think Pitt is in his bracket. I'm not seeing Pitt. Am I missing anybody In terms of NCAA tournament teams, I mean, he may be giving Grambling the auto bid for the SWAC. I'm not immediately finding that. Yes, he is. So that's technically a tournament team based on where he's got this now. But point is, the chances Vanderbilt had against good competition have now come and gone, and the schedule really on the whole, the computers thought was okay, but not great. I guess that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, really any chance, any way you look at it, whether it's the quad system, whether it's NCAA tournament teams, whether it's Power 5 teams, Vanderbilt didn't take advantage enough in the non-conference to really build their resume to a point where they didn't have to build in SEC play, and it's going to be really challenging in SEC play. There's maybe 2 or 3 games they'll be favored in SEC play. That's not to say they can't get more with a few upsets, but it's going to be really, really challenging to build a resume there, and probably close to impossible, as we kind of mentioned before. It's really hard to see this team even playing in the NIT, and just kind of a microcosm of where the program is this season. You thought maybe heading into the year that this was the team, the natural step was to go to the NCAA tournament after making the NIT. Just didn't have enough talent on the roster to make that a reality, and that's kind of shown thus far. They had opportunities to maybe back their way into having a chance at a resume as they headed into SEC play, but they really just haven't taken advantage enough of those opportunities that they've had.
I'm looking at a bunch of stats that I've got in front of me, and I have broken these out to 70 possessions. And this is where we get into the idea of identity. Okay, true shooting percentage, that's a combination of foul shooting and shooting from the field, factoring for the 3. And number 1 on the team, Miles Studi, 62%. Number 2, Liam Robbins at 61%. Nobody else. Well, Tyron Lawrence is at 59%. That's a nice number. Everybody else a good bit below that. Points per 70 possessions, Liam Robbins leads the team at 23.0. Next is Miles Studi at 17 even. Rebounds per 70 possessions, Robbins 10.1, Studi second at 7.7. Actually, Ansong is second at 9.7, but he's not exactly playing a lot of minutes. Assists per game, the leader there, Ezra Magnon at 4.4. Actually, Jordan Wright is the leader at 4.8. I hadn't caught that. So anyway, that's how that goes. Blocks per 70 possessions. Liam Robbins is leading the team at 5.2. Lee Dort is actually at 6.7, but Dort barely sees the floor because he's fouling 11.5 times per 70 possessions. That tends to keep you off the floor. Nobody else on the team above 1 except for Ansong and Malora Brown there at 1.9 and 1.1 respectively. Steals per 70 possessions, best player there, Magnon at 2.0, followed by Lawrence at 1.7. And turnovers, Robbins is turning it over 3.6 times per 70 possessions. That's the worst mark on the team among guys who play regular minutes. The best mark among guys who play regular minutes, Quentin Malora Brown at 0.7. And finally, assist to turnovers, Malora Brown leads the team at 3.0. The common theme I've got in this is they've got 3 guys who are producing pretty well. They're Robbins, probably Lawrence and Studi in that order, if you just go by the numbers. Jerry Stackhouse identified the team as a 3-point shooting team. I just don't see it. They are 196th in KenPom in 3-point percentage against D1 teams right now. To me, their identity should be Liam Robbins. Tell me why I'm wrong, or am I wrong?
I was about to say the exact same thing. I think the thinking behind maybe them being a 3-point shooting team is that they just can't get enough off the dribble outside of the 3-point line. And I do think that's a fair point, because there's really only a few guys who can create their own shot inside the arc. And I think there is some validity to them being a 3-point team, because maybe they don't have the general talent of other SEC teams and they can kind of get even from beyond the arc, but they shoot at almost 33% as a team. that is not good enough to be a three-point shooting team. And like you said, I think Liam Robbins has to be the focal point. The turnovers are a little bit of a thing there, but you just look at the full body of work of what he does, the points, kind of how he can kick it out once in a while, how he can stretch the floor. He has to be your go-to guy, and he's only playing 22 minutes a game. Only played 15 against Alabama A&M as opposed to Malora Brown's 25, and I really am not sure I get that thinking, but Robbins, I think, has to be your guy. Even when the fouls start to pile up a little bit, they have to be intentional about getting him touches in the post. They have to be intentional about getting him touches at the top of the key and finding lineups that work to make sure he's not in foul trouble. Maybe that's the two big lineup once in a while. Maybe that's him at the 5 against a stretch big. There just has to be more ways to get Liam Robbins incorporated in the offense and more ways to get him touches as opposed to some of the other guys who are maybe higher volume but aren't hitting shots at the same clip as Robbins.
Yeah, he's 4th on the team in minutes. I think he'd be 5th if Jordan Wright were healthy. Per game, I'm sure Wright's playing more minutes than he is. I don't have that in front of me, but
he is, yeah.
I would explain that by saying this. This is what I have been told. Quentin Malora Brown is the guy that they look up, that Stack looks up to and says, he's the guy that does everything I want. He sets the example. He executes things the way I want, so on and so forth. I think that is one thing that keeps Robbins off the floor a little bit more. Now, look, if you want to win games, I think that's great and set a culture. But I don't see a path to this getting any better that does not include more minutes from Liam Robbins. I know that's repetitive, but if people want to know why he's not on the floor more, that's got something to do with it. Now, maybe you find a path where you play Robbins and Malora Brown both. And by the way, Malora Brown's only played 189 minutes. I would have thought he'd have played more. But you just don't get enough offense, I think, with him on the floor. And maybe you get enough other things to where you can justify it. But if that's the case, I think you've got to find a way to maybe you play them together. I don't know what you do, but Liam Robbins, if there's any path to success, he's got to be part of that. This season of the Vandy Sports Podcast has been made possible by my friend Dr. Jody Jones, DDS. When it comes to general or cosmetic dentistry services, Jody is the best in Nashville. Just check out his client list. It testifies to that. He sees movie stars, music stars, athletes, coaches, you name it. Jody is the dentist of choice for stars in Nashville, but he sees regular folks like you and I as well. What people love about Jody's office is the ambiance. It's relaxing. It's friendly. Someone described it to me as a tooth spa. Whether your needs are general or cosmetic, go see Jody today. Call him 615-270-2322. See him at 55 Music Square East, not far from downtown or the Vanderbilt campus. Jody is a former Vanderbilt football player and a huge Commodore booster, so go and talk Vandy sports with him while you're there. Go see Jody Jones today. Thank him for his support of this podcast, because without it, this season would not be possible.
Absolutely. And Stack a few weeks ago started toying with that two big lineup a little bit, started against Wofford, and you saw them kind of play off each other a little bit, but last year didn't quite work out when they tried to run that lineup. I think Stack maybe wants to try that a little more, but the time's kind of running out to experiment with that before you get to conference play games that really, really matter. I think Malora Brown is a tone setter, and I think Stack does have a point there, but like you said, Robbins has to be the guy, and he just brings so much more offensively. He's got the post game. He can put it on the floor a little bit, out of the post, and get his own shot. He's a guy who, out of the pick and roll, can be a threat to stretch the floor. He's only shooting 19% from 3, but I do think as a guy you have to guard out there, Malora Brown probably isn't as much, and the offense is just so much more opened up with Robbins. It seems like he's just so much more of a threat in so many different ways, and Vanderbilt's going to have a hard time if he's not the focal point and he's not the guy who you're intentional about getting touches. Maybe you're intentional about getting a Miles Studi touches on the or beyond the arc. You have to be the same with Robbins inside the arc and on the block.
I think the other guy that needs discussing right now is Jordan Wright. And Jordan Wright posted his best offensive rating of the year according to Ken Palm. In the Alabama A&M win, he had the big shot in that game, hitting the 3 that stretched a 1-point lead to 4. He scored 12 points in 22 minutes. This coming off 2 games removed from Grambling State on December 9th when he didn't play. He got that injury, I believe it was a back injury in the St. Mary's game. Really has not been the same guy since, maybe until A&M. Did he look healthier to you in that game, Joey?
I'm still not sure he's 100%. I think the break is really going to help a guy like him. I think since the injury, we've seen flashes from Jordan Robbins, Jordan Wright, seen a few big plays in the Pitt game. Obviously closed the Alabama A&M game down the stretch. But I'm not sure that Jordan Wright's back to 100% health. And even when he was at 100% health, I'm not sure that he was exactly what we were hoping for as we headed into the season as a guy who could take a leap. He's the guy with the most to prove in the second half of the season to me. Tyron Lawrence has shown that he can be a valuable player. He's shown that he can take a leap. Jordan Wright has shown that in the past, but this year hasn't quite been the guy that we had hoped he would be. Obviously, the injury is a big factor in that, but you've seen flashes towards the end of the games of him making big plays. You've seen what he could be in past years and past games, like the Southern Miss game. I know that's a sore subject, but that was really the one game that stands out to me as a game where he kind of asserted himself as the alpha offensively. He was the guy who would go down the floor and make it his duty to get a good shot, and he did for the most part. Just couldn't knock enough down to beat Southern Miss, but I think that was the most encouraging night of the season for me with Jordan Wright. But since the injury, I haven't seen a whole lot, and really just shows how important he is to this team with the way they performed without him on the floor.
Well, oddly enough, that was his lowest offensive rating of the year before the injury. He posted a 43 against Fresno State. And the reason it was so low against Southern Miss is he had 5 turnovers, and they'll dock you for that. But anyway, I'm not sure he was really the player that they needed him to be before that, but it was also a pretty small sample size even before the injury.
Yeah, and with the Southern Miss thing, it wasn't that he was hitting the shots or he was taking care of the ball. It was just kind of the mindset that he had of, hey, I got to go be the guy now. And I think that was really valuable to see. And they're going to need that from him in the second half, even if Robbins and Studi are kind of the guys they are intentional about getting shots for. Wright's probably their best off the dribble guy in terms of getting his own shot, and they need him to act like it. They need him to be as aggressive as he was that night. And that's really what I was encouraged by. They just need more from him in the second half if they want to do anything in SEC play.
Are you ready for the mailbag?
Yes, sir.
All right. The mailbag is sponsored by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call. That number 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Go Doors 94. What would be the best case, worst case, and probable conference records for Vanderbilt?
I had a lot of fun looking through this and just kind of going through scenarios in my head, so I appreciate the question. Best case, I'm being a little generous here. I would say 7-11. Do I think this is going to happen? Probably not, but that's assuming you get South Carolina twice. You get Georgia on the road. You get Ole Miss, who is not a bad basketball team by any stretch. They showed that last night. And then you get 3 upsets over non-high-powered offenses or young teams, maybe like a LSU, a Florida. I guess LSU is a bad example. Maybe Arkansas has a rough night because of their youth. Maybe Florida doesn't have enough on the
injuries.
Perimeter. Yeah. Auburn maybe doesn't have enough on the perimeter one night. Vanderbilt's competed with everybody on their schedule, which is really the reason that I say that this could happen, just because I think they're going to be in enough games. Stack talked about that they just don't really know how to win yet, and I do think there's some validity to that. He did bring up a good point, though. They've been in really every game this year, at least for a decent stretch of time, and they've competed with everybody. They just haven't been able to win those games. If they can somehow flip a switch and learn how to win some of these games that they're in late, this could maybe happen. South Carolina's a team they could definitely beat twice. They might be favored against them twice. Georgia, I think, is a little bit better than them, but Vanderbilt can certainly catch them maybe 5 out of 10 times and beat them. Ole Miss is certainly a winnable game at home, and then 3 upsets over those non-high-powered offenses or maybe injury-ridden teams. Chris, what do you think maybe your best case scenario would be?
Well, I'm looking through Ken Pomeroy and Bart Torvik. Ken Pom has got them going 5-11 right now. Bart Torvik has them going 6-12 in the league. And again, those are not where it just says you're favored to win this game and so you win it. That is a summary of the probabilities. In other words, if you're a 40% favorite to win every game, that means on a game-by-game basis you are expected to lose. But if you add up the sum of the probabilities, then you're going to win about 40% of your games. So let's see. Is straight-up favorites, Torvik has got Vanderbilt 11 over South Carolina. I think that's generous, but I do think they'll win the game. Ken Pom has got that 8. South Carolina is, in my mind, I think I've said this before, far and away the worst team in the league. Next up, Pomeroy's got the Ole Miss game at home is a 50% win, but whatever the decimal is there, I guess goes in, just a 0.1% or whatever. He actually's got Ole Miss to win that game, but it's literally a toss-up, 50%. So take that for what that's worth. Torvik's got them winning that game by a point. Bart Torvik's got them winning at South Carolina by about 4.5. Pomeroy has got that game as a 1-point Vanderbilt win. So Pomeroy picks them outright to win both Carolina games, the second one by a point, and he's got them outright losing all those games. Best chances of winning, according to Pomeroy, again, Ole Miss has won. They've got a 40% chance over Florida at home. That's the next best. And Bart Torvik has got that as, 38% chance at home against Florida, 41% chance at home against Mississippi State. I don't know why he's got Florida better than State. I don't buy that, but that's what his computer spits out. Okay, I've rambled a lot there. In my opinion, for lack of a better idea, I'll stick at 5-13 in the league, which is what Pomeroy's got. And I will say, upside, who could they beat? Okay, you could beat Carolina twice. You could get Georgia on the road. You could get A&M on the road. You can get Ole Miss at home. That's 6, and get Florida once maybe, or somebody else. That's 7. I'm with you. I don't see a path that includes any more than 7.
Yeah, and I think the worst case, that's where we get real dark, because I'm not sure there's a non-zero chance, or I think there's a non-zero chance that they could go winless in the league. I don't think they're that bad. I think they are a little more talented than the teams that have gone 0-18 in their league recently, like a Georgetown, teams like that. But if things break the opposite way in all these games that are going to be close, it's certainly not impossible that they go winless, and that would certainly shake things up in the offseason. I think maybe the more interesting thing is, maybe we'll get to later, is just how many wins does Stack need, and kind of how many big wins does he need in order to have a case to keep his job, because 0-18 certainly doesn't do it. 7-11 may do it. Probably, I would guess 3 or 4 wins is what they end up with. I'm not sure if that's enough for him, even if he has all those other cases off the floor, like marketing the program, the positive recruiting momentum he's had in the last 2 years. Really interesting to think about kind of how that all shakes out, depending on how conference play goes.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of research on the stuff that Vanderbilt will probably evaluate him on. I'll save that for another podcast if it gets to be to where we kind of think we know where this is going. But I'll say this. I think here's your starting point. South Carolina on January the 3rd at home is a must-win game. They don't get that one, I don't see a path to anything good for anybody.
I think that would be a correct assessment, that there's not many must-win games for a team that's 6-6 and doesn't have much of a hope of NCAA tournament berth, but that is certainly one, because if you can't beat South Carolina at home, what gives you the confidence to go beat Ole Miss at home, or what gives you the confidence to go on the road and beat a team like Texas A&M or a team like Georgia? That really just messes with you, not even just in terms of having that loss and starting league play 0-1. It kind of just messes with you in terms of saying, like, man, we couldn't get that one. How are we going to get the rest of these?
Yeah, I think you've got to get both those South Carolina games. Without that, I don't even know that they get to 5 wins. But looking at this, I'm trying to think. Well, if you're trying to find a path to like where people can feel some optimism, like, okay, Joey, let's say this, okay? Let's say they beat Southeastern Louisiana Friday, which they should do, but I don't think anything's a given with them anymore. They're about 14-point favorites on KenPom. Let's give them that and get them to 7-6. Even if they get to 7 wins in the conference, that's 7-11. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you're looking at what, 14-17? I mean, maybe if you win 2 or 3 games in the SEC tournament, people are feeling a little better about it. But really, I just keep going back to this, okay? If they were going to get to a point, let's say they go 7-11 in the SEC, and they had beaten Southern Miss, Grambling, and maybe give them one more. That puts them at what? 9, 10, 11 wins in the non-conference portion. Add 7 of that, then maybe they're over 500, depending on exactly how many you give them. I think that they blew their realistic shot. And then, look, the season's not over. They play the games. Weird stuff could happen. But I think their most realistic shot to a pathway that people could at least be okay with is probably in the rearview mirror, and with those Southern Miss and Grambling losses in particular, and the failure to maybe pull off one somewhere else, whether that was NC State, VCU, something like that. I just think that the league schedule is going to be a lot tougher than what's behind them. It is just very difficult for me at this point, based on what I think they have and what I think the teams around them in the league have, to picture a realistic scenario where at the end of the year, everybody's happy with that win-loss mark.
Yeah, and I think more so than the win-loss mark, it's just so important that they have any type of momentum coming out of this year. And I'm not sure that's a given at this point, because you look at January, right after I get back from Christmas break, it's Tennessee on the road, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky. All of those are games they could lose, and a lot of those they could lose handily if they can't compete the way they have in the non-conference. So this thing could get real dark, and I think maybe the number one goal for the rest of the year is just to make sure they have any type of momentum coming out of this year. Can they avoid an empty Memorial Gymnasium? Can they have really anything on their resume at the end of the year? Can they pull an upset or two and have 1 or 2 fun nights that kind of give the program some life? If the program ends the year lifeless, things could certainly get ugly.
Yeah, let's say they beat Southeastern Louisiana, they go 7-11 in the league, which is, again, I think our best case scenario. They're 14-17. Say you go 1-1 in the SEC tournament, you're 15-18. Now you start getting worse than that, right? Let's say they do go 5-7, which is where KenPom's got them. Barring a win in the SEC tournament, that's a 20-loss season. Man, I don't think Vanderbilt even had a 20-loss season until Bryce Drew got here a few years ago. I can't see anybody being happy about that in that scenario.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's what starts to lead to the empty Memorial Gymnasium and just the detachment from the fan base and all the things that come with a season like that.
Yeah, I'm looking. Bryce Drew had 20-loss seasons in 2018 and 2019, I think. 2019 was the year that they went 9-23. I don't think Stallings ever lost 20 in a season. Going back and looking on KenPom, I'm seeing a 16-loss season and a 17-loss season. But yeah, and I don't know what they were. They had a season late 90s where, remember, Kentucky beat them by almost 70 in Rupp. That was a bad year, but I don't think they lost 20 games. Point is that you're getting to a point in Vanderbilt basketball history where you can't find, other than Bryce Drew's 0-18, a lot of scenarios where it got much worse than that.
So what you're telling me is I am a absolute bad luck charm. As I get onto the beat, they're going to get...
Hey, my friend, the bad luck has been going for many years. It's not you, trust me. But yeah, this. Welcome to Vandy basketball at this point. I guess that's the best way to put it. Let's move on to the next question. That is from Harley Hogg, and I will give you an answer because I do have a little bit of intel on this if you don't. Joey, do you think Jerry's beginning to feel the pressure to win when watching the bench during games? Is the team engaged, especially during timeouts?
I'll start with the Stackhouse question because I think you could probably give a better answer for the bench, although I've been at a few games. I haven't fully paid attention to that. I do have a thought on that, though. But it's actually kind of interesting to me. I think Stack is probably feeling some things internally, but he hasn't really voiced much concern about this team. Every time I ask him about their future or what they need to do heading into conference play, it's always, we can compete with anybody. Seems like this is just a growing time for us. We need to learn how to win. It's never like not optimistic, and it's always overtly positive, and I admire that. I'm not sure how much of that is real and how much of that is just trying to get his team really any juice. But I think in the non-conference, he's always been less concerned with building the resume and more concerned with finding his rotations, playing the freshmen, just finding what works. Although that hasn't happened all that much, I'm not sure that he was overly maybe as concerned as we were about the non-conference schedule. I'm sure he probably is to an extent and probably should be, though.
Yeah, what I've heard privately is that he's been a little bit of a different guy with his team this year, and people are having trouble figuring that out. I think he's not been in a great mood of late. I think that from what I'm hearing, he's feeling, I don't know if pressure's the right word, but there's a lot of tension there. Now, look, I'm not telling you that the locker room is a complete disaster or that the players don't like. I think his players actually do, for the most part, like him from what I have heard. Now, I think there may be some exceptions. I think there's certainly some things going on with body language, maybe with particular player conflicts, things like that. I'm not saying it's the happiest locker room around. But I think that something has changed with him that's affected how he's managing the team in practice. Maybe moodier is a good way to put it, for lack of a better thing. But yeah, from what I hear, he does seem to be feeling some pressure. I'm not sure what the source of that is, but what I'm hearing is it's been different behind the scenes.
I guess that's not overly surprising, just considering really all that's surrounding him and his program. Is just kind of a dark time right now for his program, and I guess we shouldn't be overly surprised to hear that news.
Yeah, well, and there was also something that came out after the Alabama A&M game. This is by the renowned Ebenezer Sanchez Twitter account, which has 134 followers and has tweeted, I think, exactly 3 times. You can go look that up for yourself. It was about an altercation, but I've done digging on that, and I don't think that was true. I say all that's sarcastic. It's a Twitter bot or a burner account or something, but that got a lot of play. And I think, to be fair to the staff and everybody, look, you can be critical, but when people are having stuff made up about them, which that appears to be the case, that's not fair to a coaching staff either. Some people took that and ran with it a little bit and talked about it, but I don't think there was anything to that.
I would have to agree. It's interesting to see. Obviously, you want to give Stack the benefit of the doubt there, and I think we definitely should. I don't think that is something with much validity behind it, at least from my knowledge. But yeah, it's people want to throw him under the bus, but there's got to be a line there, and making stuff up, if that's what happened, is not something you want to do there.
Okay, this next one is from Harley Hogg 44 again. What player needs to step up and become the leader? That's a good question. I could give you 3 or 4 different answers, but I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, my thought with the bench thing too, that I guess we forgot to get to was I haven't really noticed many guys leading the huddle that aren't coaches. And I think a lot of the better teams in the country are player led to an extent. You watch a Notre Dame game and you see Cormac Ryan. He's the guy vocal in the huddle. Bray's kind of just standing off to the side. I can't speak fully on that because I can't say I'm locked into every huddle. We have a lot going on during the games, but I don't know if I see as much of that with Vanderbilt as I have with other teams and even some of the teams they've played. I think I wouldn't say there's a full-blown leadership problem, but I certainly don't think their leadership is on the level of a team like Notre Dame or some of the more veteran-led teams in the country. I would say maybe Jordan Wright could be the guy that comes to mind when I think of that, just because you remember the Memphis game. Stack was bringing him in for the presser after the game, after a rough game from Jordan Wright, and kind of wanted him to be held accountable a little bit while Stack was going off about how he needs more from his veterans. I think he wants Jordan Wright, Miles Studi, maybe Liam Robbins to step up as leaders. And I can't say fully that they haven't got that because I'm not sure that I have that knowledge. I'm not in the locker room, but it certainly doesn't seem like their leadership is on the level of some of the teams that you see around the country thriving behind older guys who are self-led.
Okay, the last one comes from Willie 210. Once conference play starts, do you believe Stackhouse will stick with the same starting lineup game to game? Now, that's been a real point of contention. You just don't know who's going to be out there on a given night, and that's been really bizarre too.
Yeah, you look at the last game when Liam Robbins, who should be their focal point, played 15 minutes and didn't come in until after Noah Shelby. I think it's certainly challenging for even guys who should be starters and guys who are playing starter level minutes. They don't know when they're going to get on the floor a lot of the time. And obviously there's reasoning behind that, but I feel like it'd probably be a little bit better if you have some consistency there. I would probably guess that at least till February, we don't have a consistent 5 out there just because the variance in the starters that he's had. He started 9 guys throughout the year. A lot of teams only play 7 or 8, and he started 9. A lot of that was to prove a point during the Southern Miss game to me. But eventually, I think the lineup looks like Ezra, Mannion, Tyron Lawrence, Jordan Wright, Miles Studi, Liam Robbins. But Colin Smith, if he has a few good nights, could work his way in there. Trey Thomas is a guy that Stack likes a lot and has played some decent basketball in stretches this year. They can both make cases to get starts at some points in January. And Stack has also toyed with that 2 big starting lineup, and I think we could see that a few more times. So I certainly wouldn't rule out some starting lineup changes game to game in January. Maybe February is when they kind of want to have that consistent lineup of the 5 I listed, or maybe somebody else plays their way into the starting lineup. Ideally, Colin Smith would play well enough to where it's hard to keep him out of that lineup.
Yeah, to me, they've only got 8 players who look like they can play to some degree at this level right now. I just don't think the freshmen, Dort, Shelby, Lewis, if not look ready. I think Ansong is a tweener who can maybe help them for a minute or two there. Malik Dia has not. Well, Stackhouse said he was his most talented player. That's not translated yet. And if Wright is not 100%, that hurts too. But Smith can help them. He's a nice but not a great player right now. I think it's those 8 or 9 guys at this point, and unless one of these freshmen jumps up and proves to be a lot more ready right now than they've shown to be so far, I think it's that same 8 or 9 guys.
I'd have to agree with you there. I think ideally he'd trim that lineup a little bit, but I do like that he's throwing the freshmen to the wolves a little bit and kind of letting them figure it out before they have to take bell cow roles as they get older. Malik D is really interesting to me because you've seen kind of the talent in flashes. He's shooting over 30% from 3, but just hasn't shown that he is ready to play SEC minutes consistently yet. You do see the talent there, though. Early in the season, Stack said he was one of the more ready guys to play. I don't know if that's translated like you said. I thought he was maybe one of the guys that would benefit from a red shirt. I still am not sure that was a horrible take, but he has shown flashes. I'm not sure he's fully ready to play yet. Same with Lee Dort. I think he can be really valuable as kind of that third big who can go in against some of the physical guys of the SEC, like Oscar Tshiebwe, and kind of give some fouls, make it challenging on them physically, because Vanderbilt's 2 other bigs are kind of a little skinnier than Dort. Dort has some more weight to throw around, and maybe one of the better athletes in their front court. So I think they certainly have things to build on in their front court, and maybe some guys can be valuable in spot minutes. But the freshman class in general, outside of Smith, I don't know, is fully ready, but you can certainly see things in the front court that you like. I think they have a really nice nucleus there in terms of 2022 and 2023. You have Colin Smith, Malik Dia, Lee Dort, Carter Lang, and Jaqueline Roberts in the front court. That's a really nice group of five there, and maybe you go get a transfer big with some experience in the offseason. I think you like where the Vanderbilt front court's at, but right now I'm not sure that all the freshmen are completely ready. Maybe Paul Lewis can give you some minutes as kind of that steady ball handler, but other than that, I'm not completely sold that the freshmen outside of Colin Smith are ready to play conference play minutes.
Anything worth a mention that we didn't get to?
Nothing that really stands out. I just think there's so much going on with this team in terms of them having to find an identity by SEC play. The schedule gets harder. The leadership has to come soon if they want to really weather that storm, because they'll probably have a few straight losses in January. How they respond to that really will tell how the rest of the season goes after Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia on the road, Kentucky. How do you respond to that? And can you finish the season respectfully and with any source of momentum?
Hey, Joey, thanks a bunch. Look forward to catching up with you again as we get underway in conference play here soon.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Can't wait for the rest of the non-conference slate. Got a lot of big games coming up that I'm looking forward to covering.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We thank our presenting sponsor, Jody Jones DDS. We thank our other sponsors, Sutherland and Belk, Michael Kendrick of the Kendrick Group, and MyPerfectFranchise.net. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, and that's how we make this work, please email me at chrisley70@gmail.com. We also ask that you subscribe to our website, vandysports.com. That is $99 a year. You get things there that you don't get here. And of course, please rate, review, and subscribe where you see our podcast. That helps us get noticed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at vandysports.com. Follow me at chrisley70. And finally, subscribe to our Vandy Sports YouTube channel as well. Thank you for listening to the Vandy Sports Podcast, which is part of the 440 Network. I'm your host, Chris Lee. We'll catch you with another episode coming very soon.